who's next? Yeah, who's next? Who'll ride a greyhound all night long? Welcome to the C.L.I.M.B. This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business. We want you to win. This podcast exists so that you can find information, education, and we're hoping a little bit of inspiration to get you on your way and have you know what you're supposed to be doing in the new music business, because it's different than it used to be. And that's why we called it The C.L.I.M.B. My wordsmith co-host put this together, creating leverage in the music business. The C.L.I.M.B. Brilliant! So with that, I want to introduce you to my co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter. Brent is an award-winning hit songwriter with tracks, cuts, and hits by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady Antebellum, Joe Nichols, and more. And what's really cool about Brent is that he also helps songwriters turn pro by teaching the art, the craft, and the business of songwriting. And you can find Brent at songwritingpro.com. Once again, that's songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. It's an innovative artist development company. Basically, they help you find your sound and they help you find your audience. Not only do they develop and improve your artistry, they also grow and monetize your fan base, creating cash flow. Money! Yeah! Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That's production singular, no S, and we all know why, because, ladies and gentlemen, there is only one Johnny Dwinell.
That's how you know there's a God. He's like, oh no.
One and done. One and done.
Break that one. Break that mold.
Like a freshman phenom at Kentucky or something. One and done.
That's right. Don't talk to me about Kentucky, sir.
I'm an Arkansas fan. I don't want to go into Kentucky basketball. But anyway.
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right, man. It's good to see you over Skype here.
Good to see you too, man. We got a lot going on. We got a lot to cover. And I'm super stoked. Like, tell us, because you're heading it up here. You're at the helm.
I'm in the driver's seat. That's right. I'm in the driver's seat. Well, this episode, I think we're going to end up calling it "It Takes a Lot of Swings to Get a Hit," and it's about perseverance. All right, it takes a lot of swing to get a hit. Basically, what I want to talk about is don't give up on your song if the first publisher doesn't love it, and don't give up on that publisher if they don't love the first song you play for them. You usually have to take a lot of swings of the bat before you get a hit. It takes a lot of swings to get a hit. So, and I'm going to share a few of my stories that kind of prove that out in my career, and hopefully will be inspiring and educational and just motivational for you guys on your journey. Yeah. So there we go. That's what I'm going to talk about tonight. But first, I think we have a new review, or two or three or four, but we're just going to read one of them. Johnny, you have one of them pulled up?
I do. And hey, by the way, thank you for everybody for, we got a bunch of reviews this past couple weeks. We want to encourage you, if you like this content, if you're digging the rap that Brent and I got going on, you're digging the information, share it. Tell your friends about it, because I'm sure there's somebody else that's going to want to hear this kind of thing too. And subscribe to that, so as soon as it downloads, you got it in your podcast player, and you can rock it whenever you want to rock it. It's right there, and you don't need to fuss.
You don't have to think about it. The more you can kind of automate where you don't have to think about it, you can save your brain power for writing songs, booking gigs, all that good stuff.
Right? And here's the deal: when you leave a rating and a review, we're going to make it famous, like this right here. This review is a 5-star review. It's called The C.L.I.M.B. Nuggets Galore by I'm Foster Jr. I really like this guy already. I mean, don't you just trust him right off the bat?
Right off the bat.
It says, Johnny Dwinell and Brent Baxter provide a complete spectrum of challenges, issues, ups, downs, do's, don'ts, etc. that anyone will face in the music business when it comes to earning money as a songwriter. Their depth of knowledge they share is really incredible. They want you to succeed. A shout out and thanks to these two professionals for keeping it real. Kindest regards, Larry.
Thank you, Larry. We appreciate that.
Larry. That just got me pumped up right now.
Booyah.
You didn't think I was pumped up? I'm pumped up now.
There we go. Yeah, I think Larry's one of my Freddie members over there at Freddie.com as well. He left that before I kind of made contact with him. But yeah, so awesome. I think Larry and I are going to be spending a little time together here coming up. So thank you, Larry. I'm already liking you. Already looking forward to our meeting.
Oh,
so
there we go.
Here we go. Yeah. So, all right, we'll get into the content here.
It takes a lot of swings to get to a hit. I first of all love that.
Wordplay. Me do words good. There we go. Thought about that. Don't spill your water. All right. So let's start off with a couple stories. Gather round, children. Let Uncle Brent tell you a story. All right. So first story. Back before I had really anything going on as a songwriter, no cuts, nothing like that. I mean, I had some indie cuts on my best friend co-writer. That album went triple plywood. So 300 albums. Or so we sold,
Triple plywood. That's good. That's more than most artists. we made like a homemade plaque, a plywood discs. That's
like wooden looking discs. Hung it up.
Really? Do you have a picture?
Oh
of that?
Yeah, I got it over there. I'll show it to you later. I'm not going to get up right now.
You have to post that.
It is still in my office.
You have to post that.
It's like my first, thing I could hang on the wall from record. We made our own.
Door. You have to post that.
Yeah, triple for sales of 300 units. Triple plywood. 10 mites in 1,000 acres.
Awesome.
Yes, it's a rarity now. But now we just call it a rarity.
Why? Because it's so rare that anybody bought one.
It's so rare that anyone bought one, and I don't know where that box of the other 1,000 or the rest of the 1,000 is.
Oh my gosh.
Yep, triple plywood. Anyway, so back in those days, not long after I moved to Nashville, I cold called Major Bob Music, and so that's a publisher in town. Garth Brooks is they also have management arms, so they managed Garth. Garth was a writer there, and hello. Anyway, so they're a music publisher I was a big fan of. So one day I cold called them. They said I could drop off a comp, and so if you don't know, a comp is basically a CD with a few songs on it. It's a compilation disc. So I dropped off a comp of a couple of my songs. You know what I heard back?
Nothing.
Crickets.
Oh,
and not the song. I know. No, I heard nothing back. They said, yeah, you can drop it off. So I went by, dropped it off, and never heard anything back. Nothing but a cold wind going down.
Tumbleweed.
There we go. Yeah, that's exactly what I heard.
Brent patiently waits by the phone. And the wind is rustling through the trees.
I know.
Tumbleweed goes rolling across the road.
I know. I'm just like, I like you. It's not mutual. So, yeah, never heard anything back. But a few months later, a mutual friend in the industry, who was actually my ASCAP rep, Chad Green, he recommended me to him.
Chad Green?
Chad Green. I know.
I'm having coffee with him tomorrow morning.
There we go. Tell him I said hi.
So stoked about that.
Yep. And you can tell him I was talking good about him. So I just been getting to know Chad, had a meeting, played some songs for him. He dug them. He said, let me call a buddy of mine, Mike Doyle, over at Major Bob. And he called Mike, hey, got a writer here. Actually had just gotten the Alan Jackson cut, but word wasn't out, so nobody knew it yet. He's like, got an Alan Jackson cut. I dig what he's doing. I think you'll dig it. They said, cool, have him drop off a CD. This time they listened and they got back to me. And eventually we go on to sign my first publishing deal. So me and Major Bob Music. So a couple months before, tumbleweeds and crickets. A couple months later, buddy picks up a phone. We try again. This time it works out beautifully. Second story. All right. So my first meeting at ASCAP years before I met with Chad was actually with Mike Doyle. Okay. This is about the year 2000. He saw potential in a couple of my songs. This is when I was, this was before I moved here. I drove in with my buddy Tim, who went triple plywood, and we brought the record, we brought the album, the CD, the disc, and we brought that, and there was a first meeting at ASCAP. We're coming to Nashville, and had a meeting had Mike Doyle, who was an ASCAP rep at the time, and played him a couple songs, and he had some nice things to say, but he's like, moments of really good stuff, but you just not enough of them. You got to string them together, and had some nice, encouraging things to say, but he did not do backflips. He saw some potential, but it was not ready yet. So that's in 2000. So, and he probably forgot about me the minute that Tim and I walked out his door, on to the next writer.
Yeah,
we were all right.
He had like another 50 people to meet that day.
Yeah, and we didn't make his toes curl, So But 5 years later, he's at Major Bob. He gets a phone call from Chad Green, telling him about this guy named Brent Baxter, who's, Mike has never heard of before, right? And I send a disc over. They dig it. We have meetings. Then he's my song plugger. Now, so about 5 years later, the guy that, I didn't make his toes curl because the songs weren't there.
Because you had some more work to do. Yeah.
I had more work to do. I had a lot more work to do. 5 years later, he's my song plugger.
There's like 5 morals of this story. Hold on, I'm freaking out right now. But
yes, there's so much there.
Did he recognize you? Like when you went in there? Did you say, hey, we met before? You probably don't remember, but...
I waited till we signed the deal. Then I told him.
You're so smart.
I was like, hey, Mike, we met, back in 2000. Like, really? I'm like, yeah, I got my notes from the meeting. Let me look it up. And I had this notebook where I kept all my meeting notes in and stuff, because analog. I'm like, here's what you said. He's like, oh, boy. I'm like, no, it's cool. It's cool. So,
because that was smart, because now it's a funny anecdote because the ink's already dry.
The ink's dry. It's funny. I'm on board. He likes my stuff. He's pitching my stuff, So then it's a funny anecdote and a moment of fear, on his face.
Oh, my gosh. So can I step in here for a second? Not like
I'm gonna get to the big morals in a minute, but yes.
Oh my! Well, first of all, I'm just thinking like how, because I was thinking about this the other day, like how important it is to first of all not go sideways when you have like one meeting where somebody's toes don't curl over you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
and also certainly not to go sour on them because they might end up being on your team a couple years later. Mm-hmm. Things change certainly, and hopefully your writing, your craft gets better.
Yes.
And you come up on that list, but then man, like you just can't get wound up on anybody because you just don't know. It's one day, it's one moment in time. And and the first thing is what I'm hearing from you is that it's not exactly about the art on the first shot. It's just as much about a relationship.
Yeah. I mean, it takes both. It takes both. Because if I'd been a jerk to Mike and he remembered me, even if the songs were good, 5 years later, had gotten better, he'd be like, yeah, but he's
another good point.
He's a poison pill.
He would have remembered you.
We don't want him in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably would if I'd been a big enough jerk. I mean, I'm sure he ran into his share of them over the, intervening 5 years. But still, if you make that bad impression, then even if you bring in really good songs, you can be like, I don't want this guy in here every day.
Yeah.
There's another good songwriter about to walk through the door probably. So why why sign Brent if he's going to be a jerk to us? So, but yeah, it's funny. It's about not burning bridges. Sidebar story. It's story time.
Value bomb.
I was working at Blue Water Music shortly after I moved to Nashville. So this is back in the days of triple plywood, and had moved into town and didn't have anything going on. So I got a job part-time in the royalty and administrative department of Blue Water Music. So I was putting in Kim Ritchie's and Chris Knight's and Jim Lauderdale's royalty data into the system, doing their, payouts and stuff. So I was working there part-time, ended up going full-time, brought Monday morning church to town, played it for them. They passed. Eventually gets cut. And about that same time, like a couple weeks before that song comes out, I get canned.
Oh.
Yeah. And I wasn't planning on leaving just because I got my first cut because I did the math. I'm like, it's probably not going to be a single. I can't quit my job over this. I need to keep this gig. I was part-time then, but still they let me go for whatever reasons, and which ended up being a blessing. But another thing that, you want to keep your relationships good, you want to watch how you go out, is every quarter they work for me. They're my admin company now.
Yeah.
I turned right back around and hired them. They fired me. I turned right back around and hired them.
Yeah, how do you like me now?
Yeah, to do the admin on Monday morning church, and then on some other cuts that I've had since then that I own. They collect the money for me. They bundle it up, and they send it to me every quarter. And because I knew the guys, I can call Pete there, and I can call other people there, and I know how much they care about doing a good job and being accurate and tracking down money and everything. And
sure,
still had a good relationship with those people. So I could have blown up and gotten mad, like, you're gonna blah blah blah. And then after I left, would have thought about, oh yeah, who's gonna collect my royalty money? I don't know. I knew enough from learning the job there to start off doing some of my own administrative work but I knew eventually it was going to be worth that 10% to outsource it, to not have to worry about it, to know it's in good professional hands. That's what they do. So relationships. Yeah. It's like, they work for me. And it's all good. It's all good. So, yeah. And another sidebar, Chad, just a year or two ago that Chad told me this. So Chad over at ASCAP, I'd been calling for a meeting over there, been hearing good things about him. I think my brother-in-law, Matt Klein, who was just my buddy then, had a meeting with Chad or something. So I'd been, he's a good rep to meet with. So I'd been calling about trying to get a meeting. And as those things do, it takes a while to finally lock down a meeting. Anyway, I find out years later that Chad somehow got me confused with somebody else that had been just a jerk or in some way
offensive,
offensive, somehow attached my name to that person in his mind because he hadn't met me and somehow got the wires crossed. So when I was emailing and calling for an appointment, he thought it was that other guy.
Oh my gosh.
And I mean, it was Brent Baxter or something. I don't know. And so, but finally he met with me and he's like, oh, that's a totally different dude. I like this dude. And so, there are things in this business you just cannot control.
You can't write this stuff that goes on. I mean, you can't write it.
But he's a pro. Eventually he met with this guy that he thought was a jerk. He's going to meet with him again and figured out, he's just crazy. He's Brent Baxter, not this other guy. And then liked my stuff. We get along great. He calls Mike, who 5 years before didn't.
Oh, that's insane.
So, all these little things. All right, ready for the next story?
Yes, sir.
All right, so this is years later. I've left Major Bob. I'm at another publishing company that I'm in another deal there. And so years later, a different publisher didn't believe in my song, Crickets. They didn't believe in it enough to pay for a demo. My co-writers wanted to demo it. They're like, no, we don't really know what to do with it. We don't want to spend any money on it. So my co-writers did a guitar vocal anyway. So, the day we wrote it, we thought it'd be good for Joe Nichols. So I pitched it to Joe's label, which was Universal South at the time. Pitched it to a couple people over there. Pass. Pitched it around some other places around the row. Eventually got put on hold for Easton Corbin. So I was excited about that. Eventually it didn't get cut. Pass. Then Joe Nichols got a new record label on Redbow. So I pitched it again. And this time, pitch, hold, cut, title track. So all this took, of course, of a couple of years. Of no. Yes.
A whole bunch of at-bats.
A whole bunch of,
And finally got the pitch you wanted.
And eventually, you hit that sweet little,
and
it feels good in your hands. Like, oh, there it goes. So, another story. This might be my last one. I had a song idea and a lyric called Monday Morning Church. And this was back in Arkansas. And I showed it to the guy that at my time was my main co-writer, Mr. Triple Plywood, Tim, I showed it to him because he was my go-to guy. And he never did anything with it, just, maybe piddle around with it a little bit, but nothing ever happened with it. Showed it to another guy I knew in Little Rock that was a potential co-writer. He took a look at it, but never wrote on it. Nothing ever happened. Because I'm a lyricist, so I'm shopping my lyric around,
Mm-hmm.
Nothing ever happened. And then I met Erin Enderlin, and she dug it. The girl likes sad songs. So she loved it. We wrote it, and it took a couple years, but eventually Alan Jackson made Monday Morning Church a top 5 hit. So what does this mean for you guys? For you climbers out there that, you're going through and you're swinging, you're taking your swings, and, you're whiffing or you're fouling off or it's not going the way you want to. What lesson is this for you? Because this is not about me. Okay, I just know these stories because I lived them. All right, and I can speak about them with authority. What it means for you is that you shouldn't give up. It means you got to keep swinging the bat. And that's what I really want you to take away this episode. So, just think about it. What if I'd given up on Monday Morning Church because the first few potential co-writers passed on it? Nothing happened.
So it must suck, right? That's what goes through your head.
I thought it was cool, but I guess not. What if I'd given up on Crickets because my publisher didn't love it? All right. Oh, well, they're not going to pay for it. It must not be any good. They're the professionals. What if I'd given up on Major Bob because they apparently didn't love my songs that I dropped off, a couple months earlier? or because one of their song pluggers didn't do backflips over me 5 years earlier. I don't know. I dropped off a CD and they didn't. Or I heard back, and Mike Doyle's a plugger over there, and I met with him a long time ago, and he didn't really like my stuff. It was all right, but what if I'd done all that?
Yeah,
I'd probably be sitting on this side of the microphone.
That's a fact. You'd be back at the Khaki Palace, prairie dogging it up out of your little your little cubicle.
Head popping up. Break time? Is it break time?
Is it break? Is it lunchtime?
Yeah.
Man, I'll tell you what. I think here's why I love this subject matter, because the wounded artist in us all. There's an element in us all that's looking for a reason just not to go through the pain anymore and the rejection, right. Let's just go work at McDonald's or do something to make regular money. And it's really hard. I mean, I struggle with it from time to time, I hit little speed bumps with the company and I'm like, I could be making $1 million right now selling insurance,
Mm-hmm.
but I wouldn't be having any fun. It would suck.
Yeah.
This is way more exciting.
Yeah.
So, but Van Halen was passed on by every record label twice.
Mm-hmm.
Twice.
Passed on by like every label in town.
Yeah. And what's more than that, when Van Halen did get signed, it was Ted Templeman and Mo Austin who happened to be going down to the Troubadour to see Dokken play. And Van Halen opened up for Dokken. They were going to sign Dokken. They were ready to sign Dokken. Then finally they saw Van Halen live because they heard Eddie. And and Ted Templeman was like willing to sign Eddie because he was special, clearly, but he wanted to put Sammy Hagar in the band. Before they never met until that whole story with their Ferrari mechanic, their mutual Ferrari mechanic hooking them up, right? Like years later. But in the beginning, that's who because Sammy was a Warner Brothers artist, and he wanted to put Sammy in the band, and he thought that would be great, and they just said nope, forget about it, we're not getting rid of Dave, And then finally they saw him live, and they're like, oh, we get it, and so he signed him, and then they took 2 weeks to record that first freaking record, to record it and mix it and put it out, and it is that's Eruption, But every record label passed on him twice. They were produced by Gene Simmons, one of their demos. Like he put a bunch of stuff into them, And I mean, Florida Georgia Line, right? Florida Georgia Line, like. So let's step one step back with Van Halen. When Ted Templeman and Mo Austin went to see them play live, did they all of a sudden have a whole bunch of brand new songs? Did they do something completely different than what they were doing from the demos that he heard? No. Did the band change? No. Did the music change? No. Did the songs change? No. What changed? The perception. He saw him live. He was like, oh, I get it. Like, this is all about David Lee Roth having happy hour on stage. Like, this will sell. Okay. And that's exactly what it was. And and he was exactly right. And the same thing with Florida Georgia Line, right? Like, I mean, Craig Wiseman's behind that band. Like, Craig Wiseman calls every single person in town. They pick up the phone.
Right.
What's going on, Craig? What do you got? Yeah. Was it just about a barbecue, or do you got something big for me? What do you got? Come on. And he's like, I got this band, Florida Georgia Line. They're killer, blah, blah, blah. But that was the beginning, whether you love it or hate it, of bro country. But that was not on the radio prior to that. Radio said it would never work. The radio station, or the record label said it would never work. All of them, multiple times. And then they went out and sold 100,000 downloads the damn selves and came back. And again, producer change? No, because they were shopping the record. Record was done, right? Did the record change? No. Songs changed? No. Band changed? No. What changed? The perception.
Yep.
So sometimes you just got to keep plugging away to and get those at bats, because believe it or not, it doesn't feel like it helped you. It doesn't feel like you got any traction, but you kind of did. Like whether your boy at Major Bob realized it or not, I promise you, there's an energy there. Like maybe he couldn't articulate that he remembered you, but there was a comfort factor there because he knew you before. Like I believe in that. I believe it's kind of like, have we met? Like, he was probably wondering that, but he didn't want to ask because he might be embarrassed. Like, was I an asshole?
Right, yeah.
Or, like, did I do something? Was I terrible? Or, like right, he don't want to, everybody's at unease, but I'll bet you that there was something in there that was kind of like a deja vu thing or something where he was like, so it just, a
You know what I
modicum
do?
of
You know what I
familiarity.
do? You know what I do in those situations? This is just my go-to now.
What's that?
Just in case I've met someone before, I don't say nice to meet you. It's like good to see you.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thing.
I do that all the time.
I might have met him before. I might have mentored him at NSAI. I might have met him at a workshop, at something, at a writer's, whatever. I don't want to insult him, but if I just in case.
Yeah.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Because otherwise you look like a jerk. By the way, I was at that Ashley McBride showcase tonight. I was telling you, I'm with my friend Laura, and she's like, Ashley's girlfriend is named Ashley as well. And so I didn't know, I knew Ashley had a girlfriend, but I didn't know her name was Ashley. And Laura introduces me to someone in this noisy bar. And she's like, hey, this is Ashley's mom, Mrs. Parker. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, hi, I think your daughter's wonderful. And she looks at me like, what? Like, and I didn't get it. So I'm like, I go over and Laura's like, listen, I should tell you that's Ashley's girlfriend's mom, Mrs. Parker. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that explains everything. And then right then this other girl comes walking up and she's like, hi. And she hugs Laura and she looks at me. She's like, hey, how are you? I'm like, how are you? She's like, my name's Ashley. I'm like, oh my God, you're Ashley Parker. I just met your mama. And she looks at me, she's like, what? I'm like, oh my God, it was the third Ashley. So
it's like the movie Heathers.
I hopped all the way back here, like as one foot was in my mouth the whole time. But yeah, so I should just say, good to see you. Like, I don't know why I got off that, because I got caught up in the Ashley thing. And
right, yeah. It's like, how many can there be?
I wasn't expecting it, but anyway.
That's funny. It's like the movie Heathers. All right, so the point of so much of this craziness is nobody will believe in you or your music until they finally do. Yeah. All right. None of these people believe Major Bob, Mike, the publisher Crickets. Funny, they still collect the money on it. Didn't believe it then, but they'll collect it. It's funny.
Hey,
so nobody will believe in your music until they do.
And you can't, this doesn't work with sticking your toe in the water. Like, I'm going to write this song. I'm going to make this acoustic vocal. And then I'm just going to see what happens. As soon as I make some money from that, then I'm going to get serious about this.
Right.
It just doesn't work that way.
The music business doesn't. I mean, some things you can launch with a minimum viable product.
Like a lemonade stand.
Yeah, and just say, I'll sell a couple of lemonades to some people going by, and then I'll use those quarters to invest in a little bit more sugar, a little more lemons, and then I can grow my operation. Especially songwriting just doesn't. If it works that way, somebody needs to come and tell me how to do that.
It doesn't. That's why.
There's no minor league. There's no developmental league. It's all on. So, but yeah, no one's going to believe in you or your music until they finally do. So, I mean, I've heard stories about producers who had to hear a song 3, 4, or 5 times on separate occasions before they finally got it, and they cut the song and they loved it. And like, why haven't I heard this before? No, not going to tell them they've heard it 3 times. But what if those writers or those pluggers had given up after only one try?
Yeah.
So people who succeed in the music business are the ones who don't give up.
There you go.
And that sounds really simple, but it's not easy. And it's true, though. People who win in the music business are the ones who don't give up. And listen, I know the feeling. I mean, it's frustrating. I've been there. You write a song you really believe in, and the first publisher you played for skips to the next song halfway through the chorus, and they don't even make any comments on it. Or you finally get that first publisher meeting, and they say you need to dig deeper or whatever, It hurts.
Yeah.
But if you want to be a pro, you got to act like a pro. You know what pros do? A pro will take an honest look at themselves and their writing. They'll assess if they need to go back to the woodshed. They'll get out their guitars again. They're going to write another song. Then they're going to demo another song. Then they're going to pitch another song. And they're going to call another publisher. Eventually, they'll probably call the same publisher back, or they'll pitch that same song again. Why is that? Because pros know that their songs probably won't be the right song at the right time the first time. All right, so your song probably won't be the right song at the right time the first time. It's going to take some swings. It's going to take some at-bats. We also know we probably won't be the right songwriter at the right time the first time either. I sure wasn't the right songwriter at the right time the first time I met Mike at ASCAP. But I was the right songwriter at the right time a few years later we met when he was at Major Bob, when Chad sent me over there. So the big lesson is you're never going to hit home runs if you don't keep swinging the bat.
That's right.
Simple.
Can't win if you don't play.
Exactly. So it's amazing how your odds of hitting a home run, go up as soon as you walk out on the ball field, pick up a bat and walk out there, stand at home plate. It's amazing how much your odds increase from when you're in the stands. You know?
Man. It's something like 50% of people quit after the first failure. Mm-hmm. I think 70% of people quit after the second failure. And 95% of people quit after the third failure.
There you go.
So, man, if you just set the bar like, I'm going to fail like 100 times before I decide to quit.
Yeah.
I mean, then all of a sudden the herd has thinned out.
Yeah.
And you're going to be around long enough to start making some relationships,
Exactly. And you'll be a lot wiser than those people that are still on their first or second fail.
That's right. Who are tripping over it,
Exactly. Yeah. And so, I just want to talk to the climbers out there and say, what about you? Is there a song you believe in that's been passed over? Maybe it's time somebody hears that song again. Maybe you've been passed over as a writer, and maybe it's time to put yourself out there again. Make that phone call. Send that email. Or if you're not sure what to do, what swing you ought to take next, I might have something for you. You want to hear what it is, Johnny?
I know what this is, and this is awesome.
Right.
I also know some writers have already created some relationships with publishers from this exact event.
All right, cool. That's good. So I'm hosting a Songwriting Pros Play for a Publisher event next month. So that's in June. If you're listening to this in the future, I do them periodically. So another one's probably coming up. So now that I've done a few of these Play for a Publisher events, I've seen some cool stuff happen. I've seen a songwriter who didn't make it into basically what I do is I listen to, you can submit a song. I listen to a boatload of songs. I narrow it down to the 10 I think have the best chance of catching the ear of our publisher guest. And then we sit down, we listen to them, go back and forth. The writers are there. It's all video conference, so you can join from anywhere in the world. So me, the publisher, listen to the whole song, and then you get to interact with them, talk about the song, that kind of stuff. So it's really cool. But I've seen, songwriters who didn't make it to the first one make it to a later one. Mm-hmm. They didn't get in the first round, but we did it again later, different publisher, different time, maybe different song. They got in that time. I've also seen the same song not make it to one Play for a Publisher, but then make it to the next. Just, it's a different time, different set of songs, different set of competition. You just never know. So maybe this is the right time for you. Maybe you've entered before and not had one make it, or maybe you've entered some different songs because some new songs, you're just not sure. If you want to learn more about this, if you want to submit your song, if you want to take another swing, all you have to do is download my free ebook at Think Like a Pro Songwriter at giftfrombrent.com. What that will do is you'll get a free ebook out of it, which is really cool and worth it by itself. But it'll subscribe you to my email list, kind of the Songwriting Pro Insiders list. And so you'll get all the information about the Play for a Publisher event. So whether you're hearing this, because I know these podcasts, they live a long time. So if you're hearing this in the future, how is your flying car? But other than that, if you're listening to this in the future and you're flying car and they still have websites, you can go to giftfrombrent.com. It'll get you on my email list, the insider list, and it'll tell you, when the next one's coming up, and you can check it out. But yeah, I hope you will.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna shoot this out to my community too, because I think it's what an opportunity,
Yeah, I think it's great because everyone that enters a song gets to, even if you don't get to make it to the event itself, we're gonna videotape it. We're gonna 8mm it, and we're gonna record it.
You chisel the whole event out in stone and paint it on the wall.
Yeah, stone painting. I did my hand to some ram's blood, stick it up on the wall. Anyway, we're going to record it, and I'll make the replay available for everybody that submits a song. That way, even if it didn't make the cut, you get to see the songs that did and learn from what he has to say about those people. Because that's one thing people have said is that, man, I learned a lot from hearing what he had to say about
somebody else's song. Sure.
Yeah, because they're all quality songs that make it.
That makes
so you have to dig a little bit deeper than the normal, just like it shouldn't be 8 minutes, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, so check it out, giftfrombrent.com, get a free ebook, get some more info about the Play for Publisher event. That's all I got.
I love that. Well, that brings us to the end of another killer C.L.I.M.B episode. And hey, listen, again, this podcast exists because we want you to win. We want to educate you on what's happening right now, provide a little inspiration today, and hopefully get you motivated to keep on trucking, to keep writing those songs, keep being an artist. This is the best time to make this happen. It may not feel that way right now, but this is the best time to be an artist, guys. So with that, we're going to say don't forget to subscribe. Please share it with your friends if you like this podcast, and keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top.